In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. I'm your host and financial advisor, Rick Everett, along with a full complement of panelists for this episode, to include founding partner and financial advisor Larry Kloefkorn with Market Advisory Group, Joshua Cicora, our lead CPA with Market Tax Services, Trey Basa, a Medicare advisor with Market Medicare Advisors, and from Eidelman law firm, attorney Gerald Eidelman. Welcome in, everyone. Larry, you had a case recently that had a lot of common, if you will, retirement landmines in it.
Right.
Share it with us, if you would.
Yeah, you're right about them being somewhat common. Now, the fact that they were all in this one case is a little unusual. Tom and Liz, they were considering retiring. They come in and Tom says something that's also fairly common, but in a different way. He said, "I don't know what I don't know." And so he and his wife were communicating. Both of them had great careers going, but they were just getting to that point where they wanted to know that what they had accumulated would sustain them throughout retirement. And so we did find, as we were uncovering things, that there were some hurdles to overcome.
And some of those hurdles are no small hurdles. One of them, in fact, you shared with me, is that they had accounts set up, but with no beneficiaries on them.
That's right. They had several, almost a dozen different accounts. There was one account that, had been overlooked by the previous advisor and didn't have any beneficiaries on it. And now this was a case where if a client and an advisor don't have a professional that can come in that can address specifically that, there's no way that they're going to know how important this truly is. And Gerald can help us with that.
Gerald, we will defer to you. It would seem like, okay, well, there was just one account with no beneficiary on it. Certainly, if something happened to the owners of those accounts, then the money would automatically transfer to where the beneficiaries are listed on other accounts. That's not the case, though, is it?
That is not the case at all. What happens is that when you have no beneficiary in a retirement account, you wind up having to probate the account and distribute it according to intestate succession, which is the law that the state has set up as to distribution to your heirs. And one particular example, we had a lady who was my client, and we had set up a trust. We wanted to avoid one of her children had stolen a lot of money from her, and so we set up the trust to disinherit this son. Lo and behold, after she died, I was contacted by a couple of the children, and they found out that this particular retirement account had no beneficiary. So now we are trying to figure out, well, how do we get it out of the retirement account and payable to the beneficiaries? And that was no small feat. People don't realize if you wind up having to go through probate, you're looking at several months of trying to wrangle the system to get the money out. In this case, like I said, that we set up a trust to disinherit the son. But state law, if it doesn't go through the will, then it's set up to go to the natural heirs. And in this case, that's what happened. The son got a portion of this money, that he really was not intended to, simply because somebody forgot about titling or choosing the beneficiary correctly. It's something that happens quite a bit. That's why I constantly tell my clients, you need to go and check. There's dozens of stories of people who have set up their accounts back when they started a 401k 30 years ago. And that was 3 marriages ago. And they still have the first spouse. And the funny part is that it's not really funny, because if you die and that's your beneficiary, that's your beneficiary. The current spouse simply loses out to the beneficiary designation.
Larry, in every component of retirement planning, it's having all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed.
That's right. That's right. So this is an actual example of how Gerald, the attorney, assisted the financial advisor who was trying to help the clients. And so Gerald had the expertise that was needed here. Now, Gerald and I worked together on this case for the client, or prospective client at that point, in between our meetings with them. That's something I don't think we mentioned enough, is that because we're all right here in-house, it's just, a walk down a hall and then this hall, and there we are, we're together and we can discuss this and be working on it for a client. So that's important. Another thing, at Market Advisory Group, we've invested in developing staffing and the business infrastructure in the office with highly competent and trained individuals. And these people really care about getting the customer service right, pulling together all the confusing forms of each company, because there are no uniform forms.
Yeah, and just like there's no standard retirement plan, each case is different. And by having the ability of not only the professionals, whether they be the estate planning attorney, the Medicare advisor, the CPA that's overseeing all the tax moves to make sure they're not setting off tax bombs in their next return filing, it's not just those professionals, but the entire support staff that comes along with it.
Yeah, correct.
Do you have an entire team looking out for your best interest in retirement? From the estate planning to financial planning, Medicare advising, and tax planning, it's a complicated picture. But when you have one team coming together looking out for your best interest, the puzzle pieces all fit together. If you'd like to set up a complimentary no-obligation consultation, operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. And be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. There you can view past episodes or go online and set your own appointment for a consultation. We'll be back with more of the show right after this.
When people work with Market Advisor Group, they get a feel of sense of family. There's a lot of relationships that are made and going on in this conference room, and we really take a lot of pride in that and a lot of satisfaction in that.
Every client we work with, we make a custom-made plan to fit them and help reach their goals in life.
Another thing that makes us unique is we want to meet regularly with our clients and have reviews.
Market Advisory Group, we have a process, and the process we take people through is first to understand what they have, understand who they are, and then we put together an income plan for them and show them how they can look forward to retirement and not look, though retirement is going to be a stressful time. It needs to be a stress-free time.
A few unique features of working with Market Advisor Group is holistic in-house financial consultants. We've got an in-house CPA, Joshua, an in-house estate planning attorney, Gerald, an in-house Medicare advisor, Bill. We rely on all of those professionals for, again, additional service within our consultative process, making sure that we've got the advice and the expertise behind the recommendations that we make.
You know, as an advisor, I'm not there to sell them one way or the other. I'm there to educate them, to let them know what their choices are. Then I try to help them make the right choice where they can save money and feel confident in their decision.
Absolutely, the best part of my job is getting a stack of paperwork from somebody and they don't know what to do, and then I can turn around and give them back a tax return, but also to be able to explain what they can do next year that will give them a better answer than what they had this year.
When we've got clients that are calling and they need to help out a child or need to help out a grandchild or need to help themselves out and they're in a situation they didn't expect to be in, I really relish the opportunity to help them through that, help them make the educated decisions in somewhat stressful situations, because a lot of folks don't have that type of counsel.
We meet with so many people one-on-one in this office that don't ever end up becoming a customer or doing business with us, and that's okay. But when they leave our office, we know that we've helped them either get some answers to some of the questions they had or get some clarity on maybe their own path.
But one of the things that we hear all the time is, I wish I would have met you guys 10 years ago, because how much further could I be down the road? Well, Johnny Appleseed said, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. And so if we can help people today going forward, that just brings an incredible amount of comfort and excitement for us to come to work every day.
Welcome back into Eye on Retirement. In the prior segment, we were talking about Tom and Liz, who were rapidly approaching retirement. And upon a review by our staff of their current plans, we found that there were I's that weren't dotted and T's that were not crossed. And Larry, this is something that's more common than not when people bring current retirement plans to us that are coming just from a financial advisor.
Yes, that's true. And we never know until, they arrive what kind of things we're going to be talking about and looking at. Tom and Liz had some non-retirement accounts, and in those retirement accounts were stocks they had held for a long time, and therefore there were a lot of unrealized gains that we needed to be aware could possibly be there at least. And so we like to look at tax harvesting. In other words, making the right moves at the right time so that the client doesn't receive some 1099s that following January, which are very ugly. And so the only way to address this is if you have the ability to pull in a CPA, and actually we worked together before they came to the appointment. We worked together on this, and so we'd be prepared to report to them.
Joshua Cicora, lead CPA with Market Tax Services. We talk about tax harvesting, and in a sense, it's a lot like harvesting any other crop. If it's planted properly, if it's tended to properly, then the harvesting should all come together nicely. I know you find more often than not, that's not the case that has happened with people working with an advisor that doesn't have a CPA who is directly communicating with one another.
Right. You're absolutely right there, Rick. And I can tell when that's what's going on, because when I meet with clients who just work with me as a tax preparer, they'll bring in their documents, we'll go through their return, and then they're surprised by the results they receive because they're seeing a lot more income than they anticipated. When I point out that that extra income that they didn't anticipate is because of activities inside their investment account, they're often surprised by that. And so that tells me that their financial advisor isn't able to discuss the tax consequences of their decisions. And that's why when I work with Larry, we sit down with the client, we talk about in these non-retirement oriented accounts, what's going on, the potential of what could happen. You've got these gains, you've got these losses. We can mix and match and talk about how much of a gain they want to trigger versus just all or nothing. And then to put a bow on it, so to speak, we then talk about, okay, if we do this, it's going to have these tax consequences, and here's what we need to address the tax consequences in a timely fashion. Because if we don't do that, here are the consequences of that decision. And so we really just kind of put together an entire plan of how to deal with these funds and help Larry then reinvest them in a fashion that more meets what Larry's discussing with the clients about without triggering this awful tax situation. But with Tom and Liz here, they had some other things going on. They didn't just have these non-retirement oriented accounts, they had retirement oriented accounts. So then we started a conversation of how do we address tax planning around that. Now, we've already just talked about they have two different kinds of accounts going on. This is for tax planning purposes, this is a target rich environment. And so we need to work through these in a controlled fashion. Because of how much they had going on, this wasn't just a single year conversation. We had conversations with them last year. We're having conversations now. We're going to keep having conversations until we get everything worked through. Some of these years we may decide we're not going to do anything. And that's okay, because at least we're having a conversation. We're choosing what we're going to do or not do, instead of just letting not doing something being the default answer. In Tom and Liz's situation, they had a family farm they were dealing with, which added more complexity to their situation, because we need to talk about some of the tax planning we do with our business clients. You know, do you expense assets? Do you depreciate assets? How do you treat repairs? Things like that. While also keeping an eye on what's going on with these non-retirement accounts and how we're handling that. There was just a whole lot of things going on here all at once, and so we had to be careful and make an intentional plan to make sure that these different things were addressed in a fashion that they weren't going to run into each other or to cause problems one versus the other.
You know, Joshua, I think this brings to light a very important point, is that when people are working with just a financial advisor, A, they're not legally supposed to be giving tax advice, and B, there's a chance they don't know how to advise. At Market Advisory Group, we operate under a fiduciary standard, which means that we always are bound to put the client's best interest first.
You're absolutely right, Rick, there. And that's why it's great when Larry brings me in on these conversations, even if it is a surprise like you were talking about, because then we can make sure that the client's being given the right advice at the right time. And because people, we keep seeing these people again and again, and if if we give bad advice, we have to deal with those consequences. So that makes us all the more diligent on making sure when we do put plans in place, they're done appropriately to get the right end result.
Larry, how often does it happen when you have a prospective client coming to you and they've called in, they've set an appointment, they're saying they just want to meet with a financial advisor? How often does it happen that impromptu you have to bring the CPA in to get a more clear picture of the picture?
Right, several times a week. And it's not only when they're a prospective client, but oftentimes as a client, and we're doing our regular reviews that we think are very important, so that we're meeting with them several times a year. Many times a question will come up that we weren't expecting. And if I can get a tax professional there within minutes to sit at the table with us and for us all to discuss everything together, tax advice, financial advice, sometimes Medicare advice, and estate planning even, the client is being equipped to make that informed decision.
Real answers in real time from a complete team. As you meet with your financial advisor, how often has he pulled a CPA in to make sure that all the tax questions are answered to ensure a complete picture? How often has your financial advisor pulled in an estate planning attorney to make sure that things were in order? Or as you approached Medicare, brought in a Medicare advisor to ensure that you were on the best healthcare plan you could be on? Is that the kind of service you'd like to have? Because it's available to you right now by calling our operators at 316-252-8707. You can set up a complimentary no-obligation consultation. We'll be back with the final segment of Eye on Retirement right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hi, we're finishing up this episode and we're talking about Tom and Liz, who were just months away from 65 and retirement. A lot to get taken care of, a lot of ducks to get in a row, and a lot of stressors, Larry.
Yes, there were a lot of stressors. And one of the things that had come up in earlier meeting, and I knew needed to be addressed by that second meeting, is questions that they had regarding Medicare, because he had recently just turned 65 and she was approaching it. And so having the right people to talk to that's objective, that's crucial, Rick.
And I'm going to defer now to Trey Basa with Market Medicare Advisors. Trey, and a keen point that needs to be made is that transition from the workplace healthcare insurance to Medicare insurance. It's a key component of your retirement plan.
The timing is crucial. When we're looking at moving from one to the other, Medicare specifically, we have to have an idea of when we're going to leave. Leaving that workplace insurance is not as burdensome as people might make it out to believe. And turning 65 actually makes it even easier. You have a golden ticket opportunity, we like to say, to enroll into any supplement plan, no problem. What's most important is setting up this timeline with not only me, but with tax planner or financial advisor to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row when we're moving from working to not working. One of the worst surprises that I bring up, and I have to bring up in every meeting, is the income-related monthly adjustment amount.
IRMA.
Good old Aunt Irma.
Yes.
When you start Medicare, your Part B premium is going to be determined on your tax filing status and the amount that you filed for 2 years ago. And that's where Joshua, that's where Larry come into play. If we have all of these people around the same table working with the same clients, we have this idea of how much money we're making every year, what we're filing, and then we can better determine how to make that money last and what we're going to be paying on Medicare. But people just turning 65, they come in for a free consultation. I have to break the news to them, say, hey, we're going to look at 2 years back and get a better idea. But it's essentially from now on, we have to watch it a little bit more closely so we can make sure that these premiums stay manageable down the line.
So in essence, Trey, should somebody be forward thinking at age 63 as far as trying to control their income? I mean, not everybody can do that, but in an optimal situation, if there's a 2-year look back.
Absolutely. We have to be wary of what we're making 2 years in advance, especially when we're approaching 65. And then moving forward, managing what we're taking out of our accounts, what we're filing for, and how we're managing our Medicare premiums. Because in retirement, we got to make every penny last. We got to make sure that our money is going to last in our retirement. And that's our goal.
Larry, you were telling me of one question that you hear more often than not when you're meeting with clients.
Well, in particular, I had heard this question occasionally, but as recent days have gone by and weeks, I've been getting this question quite a bit more often. So I'm not sure what's going on in the back of their minds. But the question is there a contract that we must sign in order to engage your firm? And the answer to that is no. The way Market Advisory Group works is that if you have us manage your monies, then there is a fee that is deducted based on what we're managing. And what's great about that as fiduciaries is that if you prosper, that's good for us. But if you suffer, we suffer with you.
Absolutely. And another question I get in consultations is I'll be going through different things with a client on a first meeting and expressing that our attorneys recommend that you have a will reviewed or a trust reviewed every 3 to 5 years. And would you like to set up a meeting with our attorney to talk about that? And the first question always is, how much is that going to cost me?
Right.
It's not going to cost you anything to come in and sit down and visit and see if further action is necessary.
Yeah, and if there is going to be a cost, our estate planner can tell them at that time, okay, for me to do what you need to be done, here's what it would cost.
If you'd like to see and take a look at what having a whole team going to work for you looks like, give us a call. The number is 316-252-8707. Again, the operator standing by to set you up with a complimentary, no-obligation consultation at 316-252-8707. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm Rick Everett, along with the entire team, reminding you that we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns are not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not in any way refer to investment advisory products. Rates and guarantees provided by insurance products and annuities are subject to the financial strength of the issuing insurance company, not guaranteed by any bank or the FDIC. The guest commentators featured in this show are not investment advisor representatives of Foundations and do not provide advisory services. Market Advisory Group does have several investment advisor representatives that can provide such services. This is not endorsed or affiliated with any U.S. government agency, the Social Security Administration, or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options. All rights reserved.